I'm going to be banned.
No decision has been taken
From running.
She's been cleared as part of an investigation.
For the Labour Party.
No decision had been made.
Diane Abbott.
Diane Abbott.
Diane Abbott.
Do you know we have to build one new dwelling every 2 minutes?
You can see high streets with
just to
5,
cope with
6,
the sheer
7
increase in
barbershops.
numbers.
This is not
How come all these barbershops and this new barbershop?
All right.
Ladies and gents, it's Friday night, which means, against all the odds, we've made it through another week of chaos and mayhem, or K-hem, if you will. We had a national service policy, didn't we, by people who struggle to comprehend public service. We've had the newspaper and talk radio media anger wanking over a political party showcasing the temerity to adequately tax private schools. Literally days of coverage on that, over whether it's fit and proper to tax a luxury service designed to keep the powerful well-connected and powerful. Like, we're not banning them, people. We're not outlawing private schools. We're not even necessarily increasing the cost. Like, a lot of these schools make millions of pounds in profit. I'm sure they could take some of the hit, just like the energy corporations and high street banks didn't for us. By Wednesday this week, the politics of envy in fairly taxing a fundamentally unfair private school system was evened out by the Prime Minister telling working class kids, you probably don't even need to go to university at all, though, to be honest. The party of aspiration speaks. I mean, if they're going to make it harder for us to go to privilege factories, maybe we make it harder for them to improve their situation. How about that shit? What else happened this week, guys? I'm feeling it already. Off into a rant. What else took place this week? The Daily Mail Dan's latest scoop, that's Dan Hodges, after the non-event that was the Keir's Beers debacle, then the appointment of Sue Gray, that was him also, now the sale of Angela Rayner's council house, that also turned out to be a gigantic nothing burger for him. After weeks of suggestive and negative coverage, the Mail responded over the following couple of days with a new suggestion that she may now have sort of said something problematic at some point in her past. And then a front page, world exclusive. I'm sure they were just about to apologise to Angela Rayner, but this pipped them to the post. Then it was a front page, world exclusive, about a near 50-year-old establishment murder. Trump got convicted. Abbott got let off. It's been another week in politics that's been about as enjoyable as being butt-fucked by Mr. Tumble. But here to help me make sense of it, this week's guest. Please welcome to the show, Van Man Talks. Woo! Welcome. How you doing, man?
Thanks, well, that was a brilliant intro. You managed to get me riled up right from the start with my passionate hate for private schools. I have the most expensive one just down the road with me in Brighton College, 70 grand a year, the most expensive private school in the country. I see them every single day when I drive down the road with their Range Rovers, pulling up, dropping their kids off. It just made me laugh.
How do you contain the road rage so that you're not like ploughing them down like some sort of unfortunate terror incident? That's
my only thing that I string to is the fact that road is one of the most pothole-ridden roads in Brighton that they have to drive. Well, at least they're getting a bit of use out of their 4x4.
So you've already thought of an alibi. Like, I didn't need to hit them. It's a pothole. I just swerved a bit. It would make a hell of a video, though. Like, if you were, like, filming yourself, you know, going on, as you're driving, as you do, you know, having a bit of a rant, and then you were like, hold on, guys, I've just got to take care of something. And you put the phone down. Mow them down. No, we're not advocating death. Vehicular manslaughter, or whatever it's called.
Just the adults. The kids are okay. I'll let the kids. It's fine.
Let's talk about this private school thing, because this is a subject that's close to my heart. Followers, viewers will attest. It's something that's sort of blown up in the news again and again over the last few weeks. I didn't expect it to explode as a general election topic of conversation. Has it surprised you that it's been in the news this week?
Well, yeah, because I mean, who does it affect? So, what percentage of the country send their kids to private school?
7%.
A tiny percentage, and I'm pretty sure that everyone else in the country would be for more taxation on private schools. So, yeah, I'm very surprised that there's any sort of hoo-ha about this at all.
What gets me is the way that it's framed, and I suppose the reason that they frame it in a dishonest, contorted fashion is because they know how uber privileged the anomaly of a private education is. So they try to frame it like, instead of going to market like, oh, isn't it terrible that very privileged rich people keep putting their kids on this conveyor belt for more privilege and more power and everything. Nobody's going to vote for that. Nobody's going to give a shit. So what they do is they reframe it, repackage it, and serve it out by the Nick Ferraris and whoever else, as though this is an attack on aspiration. And you know aspiration, right? You want better for your family. Well, why would you take away, better chances for these people who've worked really hard to put their kids into this school and, they've made great sacrifice? I'm like, there's no fucking way that all of these parents, they're saying 30 to 40% of parents are considering taking their kids. I don't believe it. I just do not believe that chunk of privately educated kids are on the verge of, of being yanked out.
Also, a large percentage of those kids end up being messed up anyway. They've got so much pressure on their parents. We're spending 70 grand a year on your education. You must do well. You must get A stars in every single subject. And they end up messed up. How many heroin addicts do you find that have gone to private school and had so much pressure put on them by their parents? Half the time it doesn't even work anyway. I mean, the common consensus in the country is let's just have school. Let's just have school, okay? No different. Everyone goes to school. And, I'm even talking about religious schools as well. My son went to a Catholic school. My wife's Filipino Catholic. And, loads of parents shoving their kids into church, Catholic church on a Sunday because they want a place because it's one of the best schools in the country. Let's just have school. I think everyone just agrees. Let's just have school and let's just have a good standard. How about that?
Yeah.
Let's have a good standard.
I think that's the fear, though, isn't it? Like they really have a problem with this idea. I mean, as much as they talk a good game about meritocracy and over in America, it would be the American dream. Over here, it's like, you work hard, you keep your head down, and you too can make look at, I don't know, James Cleverly, I think, went to a comprehensive. Look at, this guy or that guy. They've worked hard. They are very much the edge case, right? They're the exception. For the most part, it is, if you go to a private school, you end up with a superior education. You end up better connected. I think it's like all the stats suggest that privately educated people dominate the roles in like the city, politics, journalism.
Well, definitely MPs, yeah.
So yeah, they really don't like the idea of actually getting us into a meritocracy where a kid from down the road could be, like, with the right encouragement and the right standard of education, could beat your son to becoming the trader on the trade floor. That's a scary prospect to them, right?
It makes me laugh that the 6 pledges that Keir Starmer made a couple of weeks ago before the election was announced. This isn't an attack on Labour; it's more an attack on the state of the country as a whole. It just made me laugh that one of those pledges is employ 6,000 teachers or so. It was like a very specific number of teachers, which is obviously what we have as vacancies at the moment. So basically, one of the big pledges is, let's have enough teachers to teach our kids. That's like revolutionary policy. Like every other country in the world is thinking about how we're going to tackle AI or something like that. But here in England, we're just, let's have the adequate amount of teachers to teach our kids, shall we? That would be great.
It's probably also worth considering that when we talk about that 6,000 figure or whatever it was, That's based on like now, on the figure that exists now, which is based on, I guess, a report that was published in the last 6 months. But that report published in the last 6 months will be based on figures that were collected in the last like year or two, maybe even like longer ago than that. So by the time they get up to actually recruiting these people, they're going to be on a hiding to nothing. Like you're going to be chasing your tail. So in a way, they do need to be more radical. They do need to be more ambitious with this sort of stuff, because you're right. Like, it's all very well saying, "Oh, I'm going to hire 6,000 teachers," but the goalpost could easily move in the next like 2 to 4 years to a position where, like AI, I suppose the situation that we want to avoid is that we get to like 2026. And then Starmer and Rayner are like, we've hired 6,000 English, history and sociology teachers. Where's the medal? And we'll be like, we desperately need like physics, C#, Java, Python. Like, what you've actually done is you've hired all these teachers and you've trained all of these kids to get ready for the employment scrap heap. That's what you've done. Do you have much hope with like their pledges and where they're headed policy wise, and
for Labour in general? Or oh dear. Well, I'm going to talk about this briefly, because the last couple of days I've had my first sort of twitch of doubt of whether I'm going to vote Labour or not. I've pretty much been full on with, the most important thing right now is to get the Tories out. That is the most important thing. Step one, get the Tories out. Then maybe we can push Labour in the direction of what policies we really want. I don't know. But the last couple of days, I don't know whether you know too much about it. I think we were going to talk a little bit about Diane Abbott. It kind of links in a little bit. But my local MP, Lloyd Russell Moyle, got suspended and deselected yesterday. There was a complaint about some behaviour that he had about 8 years ago come through, and he's been deselected. Now, I don't know what's happened there. I don't know anything about it. It could be something serious. I don't know. But the problem that I had today, which has really got me conflicted about voting Labour in this next election, is the obvious replacement for him was Nancy Platt's, a prominent figure in Brighton, Kent Town. She's run for that seat before. She was a massive influence on halving the Tory majority over the last few years, because it used to be a Tory majority seat, but now it's a majority Labour one. She's a tireless campaigner, and she had an interview to take his place to run for that constituency. And during that interview, it was announced that a guy called Chris Ward will be taking. So, I mean, she didn't even get a fair interview. Halfway through the interview, it was announced that Chris Ward would be taking that seat. Chris Ward is he worked for Keir Starmer. He was a speechwriter for Keir Starmer, so very loyal to Keir Starmer, basically. And it's kind of really frustrated me over the last couple of years. And obviously we've got the thing with Diane Abbott. I mean, I think she's been allowed to run now, hasn't she?
That was announced this afternoon, I think. Yeah, they were like, okay, all right. Too much drama, just fine, Diane, you're fine.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why they didn't just leave that be and just let her run, really. But there's something that doesn't sit right with me with that. We've got a loyalist, a real loyal Labour member, a councillor that every Labour member in the local community loves and votes for and wants to run for this candidacy, and she's been shoved, not even got a proper interview. For someone that is very loyal to Starmer, very close to Starmer, was his aide, his speechwriter, and it really doesn't sit well with me. Now, in my constituency, Labour on the last election got 50% of the vote. It's kind of a safe seat now. I mean, if my constituency is a bit strange, because you've got half of Brighton city centre, which is very left leaning, but the other half to the east is Peacehaven, which is basically Tory retirement. You've really got like a half and half thing going on here. That's why it used to be a safe Conservative seat, because the Greens with Caroline Lucas in the Central were focusing a bit more on East Brighton to try and push there as well. So the left-wing vote was kind of divided a little bit. But now, thanks to Nancy Platts, the councillor really pushed for the Labour vote, and it's a safe Labour seat there now. 50%, 51% of the vote share they've got. Okay. So I'm conflicted. I really am. If I was in if I was in a Conservative seat with a Conservative MP, I'd be voting Labour. If I was in a swing constituency, I'd be voting Labour because it's important. But the Labour vote in my constituency is more or less a safe Labour seat now, and I really don't like what's gone on in my constituency. Maybe it's just me because I'm loyal to my local councillor that is in fantastic work for Labour.
I think so. It's good that you're approaching this with ethics, that something's not sitting right with you and you're willing to kind of take a stand against it. I think it's also good, probably better, that you are sufficiently clued up on the polling data within your constituency, because I think there's a tendency sometimes for a lot of people to vote with their heart for admirable reasons, and they're not maybe so clued up on the polling data, and then it does result in that nightmarish scenario where it's like, the left-leaning vote gets split, and had they just worked together, or if even just like 200 more or like 50 more had voted this way, then it would have just kept the Tory out. So as long as it doesn't let a Tory in, I would say it's fine to, Yeah.
Well, actually, I'm going to go back to the original question you asked me, because I went off on a bit of a tangent there, because that's just happened today, and it's kind of fresh in my head because I'm quite angry about it. But your original question is, do I have trust in the Labour government and putting things forward? And we were talking about the 6 pledges, weren't we?
Yeah.
And do I have trust that they can do it? I don't know. But what I do like about those 6 pledges is they do kind of cover everyone in the country, everyone's political opinions, really. You've got the British energy, that people that are really interested in taking away private utilities, it's renewable energy, right? If I understand right, British energy, so British renewable energy owned by the government. You've got NHS, obviously, but even like the immigration stuff, that illegal immigration, what Labour want to do is good, isn't it? I mean, they want to put an asylum centre in France and process asylums over there, and they just want to up border force, which is obviously a good thing to do, rather than crazy Rwanda stuff. So I do like the fact that they're covering the general opinion of what most people want in the country, and they're selling different points to different political parts, like that, and they're not unrealistic targets. So yeah, I mean, I've got confidence to an extent, but it's still a massive task, isn't it, that they have to do, really.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of, over the last 6 months, I've looked at it like, I think probably what you'll get with Labour is they'll still be just as subservient to the national debt as the Tories are. So there'll be absolutely like a sort of limit in terms of what they can spend magic money wise, or even like with actual like hard pounds, like within the treasury. Like they won't be able to just throw money at every problem that we would like them to. So I think that's going to be really disappointing for a lot of people. They're going to be like, oh, well, it's no different to the Tories then. And then they'll stay home on the next general election, and then maybe the Tories will get back in. That's a situation that people need to work hard to avoid, because actually I think what you will get with the Tories, what we have seen with the Tories, is that plus incompetence plus corruption. And I don't think you'll get the same level of incompetence with Labour. I think it's possible there'll be mistakes, and I think those mistakes will be splashed all over the front pages, and it'll be like, same old Labour, they don't know what they're doing, etc., etc. But I don't think you'll see anything close to the same level of corruption that you've seen with the Tories, where it's like, oh, let's shut this down, outsource it because ideology and small state, and the government doesn't have any business running this industry, so we'll just give it to this guy over here who's just set up his own limited company yesterday and he's got no experience in running. Oh, here, have a couple of billion. Like, I don't think you'll see that sort of stuff happening anymore. But I still think,
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
like
Just the fact that they are competent and not corrupt is a
Yeah.
vast improvement, and I do believe that. I do believe that. But I am concerned with what's been going on the last couple of days of this purge of the left of the party. I mean, even during Tony Blair's era, you know, they never chucked out your Jeremy Corbyns, your Diane Abbott. They never chucked out that side. It was always there and it was always prevalent. I am a little bit concerned that we are shutting out different views within the Labour Party. That does concern me quite a bit. That
what do you think, like, the governing reason for that, or the foundation reason for getting rid of them might be?
I just think Starmer's constantly petrified of cock-ups, of basically anything that the right-wing media can grab hold of to stop him being elected.
So here's my next question then. Is it better for the greater good? And I'm not suggesting it is, I'm just asking. Is it better for the greater good that he does purge people who might cause him issues if it gives him a clearer run at getting into 10 Downing Street, gives him a bigger majority with which to then implement proper press regulation? I
mean, that is the burning question, isn't it, really? That is the burning question. But
that's a tricky one, right? Like, because I would almost say yes. I would say, like, it's better that he... I'm sorry, like, you got to break a few eggs to do the omelette or whatever the saying is. But is it better that even though, you know, who doesn't love Diane Abbott? You know, let's keep Diane Abbott, obviously. Let's keep this person over here. Let's stop disparaging the further left candidates. But also, if it does get Starmer in, and then Starmer does put in press regulation to stop that sort of rabid, frothing, right-wing vendetta journalism that causes those sorts of problems, then we never have to worry about it ever again. So it's like...
Well, this is the thing we don't know, because if Starmer could come in and be fantastic, I'm totally on board with that is a scenario. But I just don't know, Aid. I don't know. Until he's in, I just don't know. I just have to have blind faith. I really do. And it does set me a bit uneasy. I think you should have different opinions within the Labour Party. I don't think you should be narrow-minded and just be going for the centre of the party. You need to have those other voices, you know. But like I say, if Starmer comes in and is fantastic and does incredible work, then you're 100% right. But I just don't know that. Until he's in, I don't know. I just don't know.
Let's go over to the chat for a second. So I popped a message in there not so long ago just saying any questions for us, any posers that we would like to table to myself and Van Man, also known as Mark. Question: did Wes Streeting finally say something relevant about young people already having served the country? This is interesting. I assume that this is in reference to there was a Telegraph article. Sorry, we just got a super chat, so I'll come to that in 2 seconds. There was a Telegraph article that was published this week that said young people they owe us for... What was it? Like, could somebody fill in the blanks? It was like, young people owe us for furlough, so they should do national service. That's what it was. That's their way of saying thank you to the state for furlough. And so has Wes Streeting, he's gone on record saying something about how young people have already served the country. I guess that's what that's a reference to. We'll just do a couple more questions, and we'll definitely come to Puninator's super chat comment just now. Somebody says, I'm running behind. Sorry, Blue Badger says, I'm running behind. What's in Mr. Tumble's spotty bag, Aid? I have no idea. The lights were out. Let's see what else we've got. Question: how much of an impact will voter ID have in this general election, given we've never had a general election with voter ID before? Whoa! I'll throw that one over to you, Mark.
I think that's a very good question. Well, I mean, the answer is we don't know. It's an experiment. We're going to find out because, you know, straight away there's a barrier there for young people. We know this. This is going to affect young people because where it's going to affect is that kid that's at home probably me when I was 18 years old. I was this kid where I was thinking, shall I vote? Shall I vote? Yeah, I might vote, actually. I might just check out what's going on, check out some of the parties and vote. But then as soon as I find out, oh, you need ID. Oh, okay, I haven't got a passport or a driving license. Oh, you can get a free one. I'll go online. Oh, I have to download a picture and then put in. Okay, I can't be bothered anymore. That's what that vote is gone. That vote is. And like, I still think those people should have a vote. If they've taken a bit of an interest and they're going to look at some policy, they should have a vote. But also the people that just forget. I think there's going to be thousands of people that just forget, just go there with no ID, and they go home and they think, you know what, I can't be bothered to go out. But I guess the burning question is, do those votes count? They're obviously not. You know, this is what the right-wing opinion is mainly, isn't it? Is that if you're not invested in voting, then we shouldn't have your vote anyway. But yeah, I think it's definitely going to have an effect for those examples that I've just given. It's going to be interesting to see. I don't know whether they're going to do a poll or be able to research how many people didn't vote because of ID. It's kind of a hard thing to survey, isn't it, really?
I think they have done stats on the 2 batches of local elections since it was brought in. And I remember Jacob Rees-Mogg gave a speech at a dinner, which was one of those sort of the mask has slipped moments where he privately acknowledged, I don't think he thought that he was going to be voted. Yeah, but just for the benefit of people who have not come across this story, he privately mentioned at this dinner speech that actually that policy, although it had been meant to disenfranchise younger voters and work to the Tories' favour, it had actually cost them votes, and that this was a moment of reflection for them. That was his. I'm paraphrasing some slightly, but not much. It was pretty much him going, "Yeah, we did do it to fuck off the younger voters." I mean, like, I feel like the whole voter ID thing is so transparently corrupt in its intentions, like to try to disrupt or get in the way of younger people from casting their vote because you know that statistically they're more likely to vote for the other guys, and there's no evidence of voter fraud to back up the implementation. That's the thing that really gets me with this country. It's like somebody can hold up their hand and go like, I've got a great idea, lads, we should put voter ID in, and nobody ever seems to stop them and go like, where's your evidence? Where's this evidence of like widespread voter fraud? Like, don't start holding up posters of Donald Trump. Don't start like, you know, showing me Fox News. This country, where's the voter fraud in this country that you want to solve by bringing in voter ID? And
the cost as well. The cost for these free IDs and the advertising to get the message out. You know, everyone's all like, oh, you know, look at these migrants, 6 million a day or something. Look at the cost, and they'll be all for voter ID, but that's costing unnecessary cost. It's stupid. But the interesting thing about this, I guess, the sort of counter that Labour would have for this is dropping voter age to 16, isn't it? Is what they're. So their attack to win left-wing votes is to bring the voting age down. And the Tories' attack to stop the left-wing vote is voter ID. So they're kind of, I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on 16-year-olds voting?
I don't see a problem with it. Like, I don't think it's. I mean, look, if the Tories are happy to introduce voter ID based on absolutely no evidence of there being voter fraud, I don't see any reason really why Labour can't make a similar push to introduce like under 18 voting. It seems to me that the only pushback on that is, well, what kind of life experience have you got at 16 or 17?
Pretty similar to when.
Accept that. I mean, yeah. If it sort of goes back to the, and I've heard this argument from a bunch of people, and I hate to do the repetition thing because I'm sure other people have heard it made by people way more eloquent than I. However, it bears repeating that if you are 16 or 17 years old and you can work in a place and you're earning your money and it gets taxed and NI'd, then fucking you should have a right to say like how that's spent and who you want to put into the local council and, you know, be the candidate for your ward.
The only 16-year-olds, and this includes 18-year-olds as well, the only 16-year-olds or 18-year-olds that would be voting are people that are politically engaged anyway. So they're obviously taking an interest, and they're having an interest in the country.
Well, that's
so,
a good point. Yeah, I mean, it's like, so that's the
really
other thing is like the young famously don't really get off their asses and go out to vote for the reasons that you tapped into earlier. Like, it's too much hassle. It feels a bit stuffy. It feels a bit kind of sad, to use 90s vernacular. It's like, where are you off to today? Do you want to come to the barbecue? Get a few beers? No, I'm going to vote. Oh, what are you doing? Like, it's not a cool thing to go and vote, I don't think, for many, younger people.
I was not engaged in politics at all.
Until
I have voted in every. Well, I have voted in every election that I've been eligible for, but yeah, I was 17 in was it 2001? So I missed that one. So I was like in my early 20s in 2005, which is when I voted for the first time. I just voted Labour because, same story. Family voted Labour. It's something that working class people do. I just voted, but I got politically engaged around 2010. Tory government coming in, and it was also in Brighton. It was the real big push for Caroline Lucas and the Green Party to get their first Green MP. So there was a lot of buzz.
Actually, let's talk about that for a minute. Well, actually, let's do Puninator's super chat for a minute. So, he says, I think Starmer knows how much damage Corbyn did to Labour as leader with the general public, so he's overcompensating. Not saying that he's right or wrong. I think there's a lot to that. Yeah, I think it's the fear that if he doesn't take swift action on people who he deems, or who the tabloids, right-wing tabloids, deem to be, let's say, anti-Semitic, right? If anyone is even in 100-mile radius of anti-Semitism, or anything that could be construed, rightly or wrongly, as anti-Semitic, he has to go in hard, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Or that
whole... And it's his position on Israel and Palestine. We see it with that as well, don't we? Yeah,
that's it. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the Greens, actually. Interesting that you touched on that there. And the reason that I wanted to talk to them is because when you and I were chatting about the topics that we might discuss tonight, one of those that arose in that exchange was Farage, Tice, question time. Why are these people being invited on these shows? Which is a sort of diametric or inverted thing of what I was wondering this week, which is, where the fuck are the Greens? Yeah. And what I mean by that is, the Green Party did pretty fucking well in the local elections. The Green Party have had an MP. The Green Party are an established political force, party with funding. Why is it that in a general election campaign, we've got Tyson Farage invited on Question Time, Tyson Farage on Sky, Tyson Farage on Sky, BBC News? Where are the Greens, man?
Yeah, well, I mean, I know the answer to that. I think you know the answer to that as well, Wade, don't you? Is the Greens do not get viewing figures, and that's what it's all about at the end of the day. Farage and Piers Morgan on Question Time will get, and I'm sure they got an insane amount of viewers, because it's TV, it's drama.
Yeah, and, but okay, so numbers, that's what we're talking about here, is they are box office. They're popcorn. If we get Piers Morgan and Farage on the same show, these people will draw in eyeballs, etc., etc. But the BBC are not powered by advertising. So in a sense, it doesn't really make any difference how many eyeballs they get on. They're supposed to be about providing quality debate, education, stimulating content. This is like one of my few bugbears with the BBC is like, why do they produce shows like Strictly? Like, it's a commercial...
I mean, I think show. It's like I think they do get. I mean, obviously, the license fee is their main funding, but they do sell a lot of these shows abroad. So, Question Time, when it goes out to other countries, they'll get revenue for. If it goes on YouTube and other streaming services and stuff, they do get revenue in other areas as well.
I see.
But I mean, it's a good question for the BBC, and that's the question.
It's just like, so. On the one hand, I understand the eyeballs argument. I'm being a little bit argumentative, but I get it. Like, if you're a producer and you're being measured metrically by how many people tuned in or watched it on catch up, you will be tempted to bring in contentious names, people that you know will bring an audience with them. What I don't understand, or what I understand less, is why the Greens are not in that space when they've got actually quite an interesting story to tell, right?
Yep.
Like, if we don't get a handle on the environment, then X will happen. If we did, like, that's, I mean, everybody loves bad news. That's why the newspapers are covered in terrible news every day. So they've got the worst news out of everyone, but nobody gives a fuck. Everyone's like, yeah. Whatever.
Well, it's strange. The BBC seem to pick and choose when they want to care about impartiality. I mean, Farage was on the BBC recently, and the presenter, they cut to the presenter, and she said, "Oh, Farage's inflammatory views" or something, and then she had to apologise. There wasn't even a conversation; it was over her ear. You need to apologise from that because you're breaking impartiality rules. So it is bizarre. The BBC pick and choose when they need to be impartial, and you're absolutely right. The Greens have had a massive founding in this country. They've got an MP. They've had an MP for the last 14 years. They're really pushing. There's a real chance that they could get another one in Bristol. There's another seat that they're really pushing for. So yeah, they should be. They should be a force. So
I hope they do. Like, I'm all for, like, tactically voting and getting Labour into power, but I would fucking love it if the Greens got like 2 or 3 MPs in, and even though that's a modest amount, hopefully with that representation at parliamentary level, maybe them and the Lib Dems together. I don't know. Like, is there a space for a political force to act like, the Brexit Party or what they called now, fucking Reform? To push Labour in a direction, to act as a sort of that nipping at the heels of the main political party to get them to do the thing that you want. If we could get the Greens to operate in that way. But truly, and this is going to sound really cunty, but I've watched their campaign launch, and I just don't think either of the co-leaders of the Green Party at the moment, I don't think they've got the charisma or I don't know. Not that Keir Starmer does. He's but I think if you're going to be a challenger, an upstart party, there's got to be something there. You've got to be funny. You've got to be, I don't know. I didn't get that from them.
Yeah, you're right. If you're going to try and have the mass appeal like Reform have and like Nigel Farage has, obviously, whatever you think of the guy, you can't dispute that he has charisma and he appeals to a lot of people. They should have some sort of figure like that. But I think they're just concentrating on their 2 seats, really, the Greens. I think Sean Berry in Brighton will win again. I think in Brighton we love being different. We love having that Green MP. And I mentioned there was a real buzz back in 2010 when we elected. So I was living in central Brighton then, in that constituency. So I voted for Caroline Lucas in 2010 and in 2015. And the first time we got a Green MP in, there was a real buzz. There was a real buzz. We really thought we could get more. And there was a movement started, but first past the post. It's so incredibly difficult. And my ideal government would be a sort of centrist Labour coalition with the Greens or something. It really would. But yeah, the Greens, they're focusing on their 2 constituencies. I don't know. Maybe the youngsters, as they come more politically aware, will have more of a push for green style politics with environmental change and stuff like that. And then maybe if they can get someone with a bit more charisma. But you're completely right, They do need someone. They need a left wing Nigel Farage, don't they? That's what they need.
Yeah. I mean, it's sad to think, and it shouldn't be like this. And often when I voice these sort of opinions to people, they go like, well, that's exactly what we need, isn't it? It's like more media managed, stage managed, focus grouped, showman narcissists up front in UK politics. Nice one, Aid. But truly, I think if you want to connect with voters, if you want to capture the imagination of people and have that translate into votes, I mean, I'm not a sort of electoral strategist, but it seems to me like that would be way more successful than having, run-of-the-mill, I'm sure very professional, very lovely, heart in the right place kind of politicians or aspiring politicians. I just think
the fact of the matter is, in this country, that let's get real. I mean, the majority of people are not day-to-day politically engaged. So when it comes around to election time, you do need someone with a bit of charisma, because day-to-day politics, what you've mentioned from the Green Party, can just be boring and dull to a lot of people that just are not politically engaged every single day.
Yeah, I mean, it would just be nice to, like, if I cast my mind back, right, to the Trump-Clinton campaign, 2016, and they're debating on a stage.
Oh, Hillary Clinton, wasn't it? Of course, yes. I was thinking Bill Clinton. Of course, yeah.
There's a debate that they have on the stage, and she says, I can't remember what the setup was now, but he says, yeah, because you'd be in jail, right? And it was not the funniest joke in the world, but it was just funny enough that I really think like that probably won a huge chunk of people. They were like, oh, he's funny. Like he's not a politician. He's ripping into politicians. They can't handle it. Like, I detest Donald Trump. I think he's a fucking sociopath. But I think for a lot of people to see a guy up there behaving in that way that was seemingly at that point quick-witted, and didn't talk like a politician, I feel like that won over a lot of hearts and minds. I think in the Green Party's quarters, like what you said a minute ago, like you need a sort of Nigel Farage of the left. That's kind of what they need, is like a Faragean, Trumpian kind of figure, less populist, but just as much of a showboat,
Yeah, no, I completely. I mean, Boris Johnson is a perfect example of this, isn't it? I done a video recently. It was from a Political Joe video where they interviewed the safest Tory seat in the country, and there was this woman. And I'm a well-reasoned guy. Generally, I get on with people, even whatever your political views in. I've done quite a lot of live stream with right wingers and stuff, and generally I get on with people. But this woman just brought out the anger in me. She really did.
The rage.
She's
more than the private school pupils.
She's just a pure Tory cultist, and she absolutely adored Boris Johnson. Yeah. And it was, basically he was saying,
hey, wait. You didn't adore Boris Johnson?
Strangely enough, no.
No. I must have invited the wrong guest on tonight. No, continue, please.
But everything the man's done, and she knows, during COVID, everything he'd done, all the dodgy contracts, the delays, the thousands of people that died through care homes because he didn't bring lockdown in, all the horrendous things that he's done. But this woman still adores him because of that. It's populism, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's pure populism. He's got that, I'll scruff his hair, I like him, I'd bring him round for tea. And you can't put a price on that. If you've got that will win you so many votes. And if we can have someone like that with good politics, all these populism, whether it's Farage, Boris Johnson, Trump, they always have the worst politics. Why can't we have someone like this with good politics? It's just,
well, they say it attracts the wrong people, don't they? It attracts sociopaths into positions of power. And I think somebody did a study on it a while ago, like people that go into politics, like if you actually study them, if you ask them a series of like 1,000 questions, you will come out with like the conclusion is like, he's not definitely a sociopath, but he's a candidate for, he could well be. Let me just go back to the super chats quickly. I think we got a couple more. So Darren Christian, thank you very much for the super chat, mate. With reference to Wes Streeting, he said young people sacrificed their social life, had significant restrictions to their education to keep older people safe. Yes, so that does sort of go back to that Telegraph article in response to the national service. Puninator's jumped in again. Also, thank you, mate. He says Green also won their MP the legit way. Defuck. There's the monetization gone. Had to take the defective Tory 30p Oh, Reform. Is that what you mean? Reform had to take the defective Tory 30p flea who would have joined Lib
okay,
Dems.
yeah.
Um,
Because all UKIP and Reform MPs have all been defections, haven't they? They've never actually won an honest MP.
yeah, that's right. He says we know he's not a one-party guy. Yeah, I was mocking him the other day on Twitter. I was saying like, what's his game plan for after the election once he's ousted? Like, is he
Who you talk about? Lee Anderson or
Lee Anderson? Yeah, is he going to who's he going to defect to next? Defect to Greens?
Well, no, I mean, he'll just be on GB News, wouldn't he? I mean, that's what he'll do.
Well, will he? Because GB News have lost like their main cash cow, Paul Marshall. So he's not there anymore. They've hemorrhaged advertising revenue. That's why they've moved to this sort of... They're not calling it a Patreon model. But if you go to their, like, you can be a member page, it looks fucking identical to Patreon. It's like, join on this tier, join on this tier, and on this tier you could get, like... So they're basically turning into glorified content creators, is what they are.
Yeah. But I mean, GB News will really kick into gear after the election because they will be full 100-mile-an-hour on getting Reform to be the next right-wing party.
Really?
I mean, they will be. Oh yeah, this is their time. This is what they've been waiting for. They'll have the whole right-wing audience to go crazy with.
Did you see the press conference with Tice and Farage this week, where Farage had suggested playfully that he had shopped a deal to Number 10 to Sunak to consider I was about to say just like they did in 2019, but it might not be the exact same deal. It might not be like we're going to stand down in every Tory constituency. But there was talk of a deal, that they had tabled a deal to Sunak to make this general election a little bit easier for him. And then at the same press conference, Tice immediately shut it down. He was like, no, there will be no deals. No deals with the Tories. And I'm like, oh, that's fucking interesting.
Yeah.
It's like Farage is honorary president. Tice is, I don't even know is Tice like leader? I don't know which is more superior.
Yeah, I mean, he's the leader, but he's also the money man, isn't he? He's the one that's invested all the money into Reform. So
Yes.
it is, I mean, it's a power play. I don't know who has the ultimate power out of the two of them, really. Farage has the prestige and the voter base's ear. Tice has the money and the leadership. So, yeah, it's a very interesting battle.
But like, if
Tice has been on the record for months and months and months, I will never do a deal. I will never, ever, ever do a deal with the Tories.
But
implicit.
I mean, look, would he do a deal though? Let's say that Sunak bangs down his door and says, "All right, or like you've had your fun. The polling is terrible for us now. We're on course to be basically extinct. We will bring you on board, like in safe seats. We will, or you can have like we'll give you peerages in the resignation honours, or we'll like." They'll do whatever they need to do to get these guys into establishment roles if they just agree to stand the fuck down in Tory safe seats. Would they please do that? Do you think Tice would say, okay, I will, yes, I'll take you up on that. I'll come to the Carlton Club, the Garrick. I'll be given a peerage. I'll sit in the House of Lords. Or do you think he would stick to his principles and go like, no, I'm not standing down, but then neither of us will have any power. You won't give me a peerage or Nige, and like basically both of our parties will be extinct. Like I would have thought it'd be the former.
I don't know. I think Tice is invested in the ultimate prize of destroying the Tory party. I don't think anything. I don't think they can offer him what he wants. I think him and Farage just want the Tory party to completely be demolished in this next election, so they can rise from the ashes. I don't see what the Tories can offer him that he'd want. He wants reform style policy. He either wants to be, well, for whether we're talking about Tice or Farage either wants to control the Conservative Party once they get absolutely destroyed, or have Reform as the bigger party so they can push their, tax breaks and everything they've ever dreamed of. I just don't think the Tories can offer Tice enough. I just don't.
I mean, I think the key thing here is that, like, well, my understanding of what Farage and Tice are all about is that sort of capitalist ultra thing. Like, they want billionaires to be able to trash workers' rights and get tax breaks and make themselves even more obscenely rich than they already are. And if that means leaving the ECHR, reneging on workers' rights legislation, then so be it. And if they need to coast into power or into positions of influence, riding that wave of immigration hysteria, then they're very happy to do that. What worries me about it is that if they did a deal with the Tories and they did stand down, and then Labour got a hung parliament and they were forced into a coalition with somebody else, is there a possibility that that coalition could collapse then? And then there would be a second GE, and then the Tories just inch it in? Like, that's a serious worry for me. But then, I don't know, man. Like, I'm just sort of thinking out loud here a little bit. But, like, Labour have Scotland now, or at least a greater presence in Scotland that they didn't have the last general election. So maybe they'd be all right anyway. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how. So, say Reform drop out and all those possible Reform voters, I don't necessarily think they're going to the Tories, though. I mean, this is the thing. This is what you'd assume. If they made a deal with Reform, okay, we're going to stand down all our candidates, I think the majority of those will not turn up or vote for independence. I don't think they'll go, because I talk to a lot of right-wing folks. I get a lot come to my channel. I've done this week, I was doing a live stream with a right-wing YouTuber. You know, I talk to these people quite a lot. They hate the Tories as much as we do. They absolutely hate them. They despise them. They probably hate Labour a little bit more. But I just don't see those Reform voters going to the Tories. I just think it will massively backfire if they do. That they will either just not vote at all, or they'll vote for independence.
Even if the Tories do what they did in 2019, which is, and I spoke a little bit about this on one of the paper reviews this week, which is effectively when they agreed to stand down, the Farages, the Tices, they make a series of demands. They say, you need to push through the hardest Brexit. You need to talk about not just leaving the single market and the customs union, you need to talk about hard borders and free trade deals and all the rest of it.
I think the trust has gone. Yeah, I mean, for a certain amount, that would make a difference. But I don't think those Reform voters would trust the Tories if they put those policies.
I suppose, after the sort of, quote unquote betrayal of Brexit, where
because they've been let down. They've been let down. You're putting yourself in the mindset of one of these guys that wakes up every morning, immigrants, you wake up every morning, you hate immigrants, you've hated them for the last 10, 14 years. Every Tory government that comes in promises you, we're going to stop the immigrants, we're going to get rid of immigrants. They never do. I just don't think they're getting that trust back from the Tory party. I can't see it personally. It's hard. So just try and put yourself in that mindset of your average Reform voter.
It's a weird fucking mindset though, isn't it? Like, I think I did a TikTok about this a few years ago where I was like, me waking up every morning knowing that I don't, like, it's not my entire personality to hate immigrants. Just wake up, you're like, maybe make a coffee, maybe I'll take my kids out to the park. like the contrast of it, it's like, how have you got the fucking time and energy? You got 3 kids and a full-time job and a pissed off girlfriend. How have you got the time and energy to be this angry about people you've never fucking met?
Well, that's the thing. It's all stuff that doesn't affect your life in any way, shape, or form as well. Trans people, immigrants, your life is not affected by any of this stuff. Some woke student or something that said something a bit daft, these things that you wake up every day, you're so mad, that don't affect your life in any way, shape, or form. So it's very difficult to get into the mindset of these folks.
Do you think, while we attempt to get into the mindset of these people, do you think it's, as I do, a lack of self in the psychoanalytical sense? Like, is it a lack of interests, a less full life, low self-worth, and so then they try to fill up that chasm with superficial kind of paper-thin wallpapering of, like, I hate immigrants. I'm all about the St. George's Cross. I love poppies. I love statues. That's enough to just paper over it. But actually what's underneath that is just this giant vacuum of...
Yeah, there's definitely a good case. I've tried to analyze this so many times.
Yeah.
I have a few family members that are like this, and a lot of them. This is quite common with people that get to the end of their stage of their life as well, where the world around them just they don't recognize the world around them. Everything's strange. Kids are weird. They're dressing weird. I don't recognize these people on the street. And I think just a lot of it just comes from fear of the unknown, of getting old and the world changing. I think this happens in every generation. Whenever you get to the later stages of your life, the world is massively different. You have this nice, fuzzy, warm feeling about your youth, you know, back in the 70s or the 80s, you know, where everyone looked the same. And, you know, it's just that fear. And social media is just, you know, I have a specific family member that spends most of her time just flicking through Twitter, and you know how the algorithm works. She just gets fed this stuff every day. What's this migrant doing over here? Look at this woke student. Look at this trans person here. Just fed into the brain every single day. And you're right what you say. There is a vacuum there because you know, they're filling it with this.
Do you know what though? I feel the same about people, and maybe there's a solution here somewhere. Like, I kind of feel the same about people who watch a lot of soaps. And I'm sorry if anyone's watching this and they're like, hey, fuck off, eh? Like, I watch Corrie and that's fine. And you go fuck yourself with your judgment. But, like, we went to go and see some friends a few months ago. And the lady, lovely lady, really nice lady. But she watches, like, literally every soap going. And I'm like... I don't fucking get it. Like, how empty is your fucking life that you...
So every evening it goes from Emmerdale to Coronation Street to EastEnders.
Yeah.
Monday, Wednesday,
but like to channel Marina Purkis, who was a guest on a few months ago, she was like, you know, there's enough real, weird, corrupt, gossipy shit going on, like in real, like, let me introduce you to real life. It's just, if not more fucked up. So it puzzles me that people would, in my opinion, or, you know, my sensibilities, that they would waste that time watching something that is that, I don't know, I hesitate to use the word trashy.
I think it goes back to what I was saying, though. I think it just gives them that warm, fuzzy feeling of years gone by, doesn't it? Where everyone would sit at home and because you didn't have the internet, you didn't have social media, you didn't have, your evening was what's on the 4 channels. Let's watch Coronation Street. Let's watch EastEnders. I guess it brings them back to that warm, fuzzy feeling of that time.
I wonder if that's why. EastEnders had such a hard time, like, modernizing. Like, for years, I don't know what it's like now, but for years and years, even though it was in the East End of London, which was, while I was living there, you know, fucking MDF cafes and, you know, guys walking around like, you all right, mate? How you doing? Yeah, what's up, bruv? Like, that's how everybody talked that was under the age of, like, 35, unless they were, like, privately educated and, you know, trust funds in a 1-bed flat or whatever. But that's basically how everybody talked. But then you would flick on EastEnders, and also in the East End would be this weird mythical place that was stuck in like a 1980s time portal where people still went to the laundrette and people still went to this pub that hadn't been fucking updated in like 20 years, and everyone still talks like a Cockney. None of this sort of like new Cockney accent. It was like all like, everybody sounded Essex to me in it.
Yeah.
Essex and Kent, sort of proper old school Cockney accents. Maybe that's a thing. It would, like, I always thought it was just, you know, clumsy production, but maybe it was deliberate. Like, they were like, look, old people watch soaps.
Yeah.
Let's make it like they're Cockney, their East End thing, you know?
It would be interesting to watch an episode of EastEnders now. I haven't watched EastEnders for probably near on 15 years. it would be very interesting to see what it's like now. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Ade. You're absolutely right. They're taking the audience with them. They're giving this glossy vision of the East End that they're used to with pie and mash and the laundrette.
It's it's a sort of very subtly modernized version of what they would like to think the East End is still like. I think, like, my old man's from the East End, and back in the day, he was like, if my nan was watching EastEnders, he'd be like, "Oh, it's not like the East End that we remember, is it?" And she'd be like, "No, not at all." And I think it's like there's something in that. It's like you just feed them a little bit of what they think, like their idea, their caricature of the East End might be. Anyway, we're going way off on a tangent now. Right, we've come to the end of the show, actually, Mark. It's 8:30. So I'm going to round this off with a couple of quick fire questions. Is that all right?
Sure.
Okay. If you picked up your phone right now and opened Spotify, what is the last song that you've played on there?
I could actually do it. Oh god, Baby Metal. I very much doubt you or your viewers have probably ever heard of them, but they're a Japanese metal band.
Okay.
I like my Japanese metal.
Is Japanese metal a thing? Is that like a genre? Is that...
Oh, it's totally a thing, and it's awesome.
Is it?
And it's crazy, and just what you'd imagine from Japanese metal.
When I cut this as a little segment, I'm definitely going to put, like, bookend it with a little bit of Japanese metal. If there was a movie of your life, who would you have play you?
I'm gonna have to do my man crush.
Cast as you.
Everyone has a man crush, right?
Sure.
I know you have one, Ade.
It's you.
I naturally. But my man crush would be Brad Pitt in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He is just so cool in that film. He's delicious. So awesome. So yeah, Brad Pitt.
Okay, so you would cast Brad Pitt as you. Who have you been told that you look like, though?
Oh no. I don't sound like him, frankly, but a lot of people say I look like Harry Kane.
Harry Kane, okay. Jim Speak in the chat says Paul Kay. I don't know if Paul Kay a famous person that you look like? Or are they just saying the name Paul Kay? It's difficult to tell. Once people join the chat and they've been in there for an hour, I know they've had a couple of beers, so
it's Friday.
Yeah. Who has a really punchable face?
Oh, I've got a couple, but I'm in the football world again with Phil Foden. I don't know whether you're a football guy, Ade, but Phil Foden's face just. The thing is, it's wrong because he looks like a 12-year-old boy, but I just want to punch him whenever I see his face.
What you do is you fantasize that he's a private school 12-year-old boy, and then it's
at Brighton College. Yeah,
it's it's fine.
Phil Foden.
What's the last thing that you did that you really wish you didn't?
Oh God, I hate these sort of questions. You didn't tell me you were going to do these on the spot questions. Something I've done that I really wish I didn't. Okay, so I just we were talking about this before. I just recently went to the Philippines, and it was my 40th birthday while we were there, actually on the flight, and it struck 12 o'clock at midnight while I was at Kuala Lumpur airport, and I thought I'm going to do something crazy, new era, just turned 40. So I went for a shit in one of those holes where you just have the footprints and you just squat over and go for a shit. That was something that I wish I'd never done because that was excruciatingly painful, and aiming was a lot more difficult than I first thought.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be.
That's the thing that you wish that you had never done.
Yeah.
Along with this podcast. Okay, last question, loosely related. If there were a time in your teenage years that you could donate to a DVD entitled Times Mark Was a Total Fucking Bellend, what would it be? got to cast your mind.
Okay, Reading Festival 2005. We were playing a fantastic game where a bit of bunting had come down, and everyone walking along the track, we were getting them to do the limbo underneath, and everyone was on board. Everyone was doing it. It was great fun. We were pissed, and loads of people were doing it. And this one punk decided, I'm just not doing it. So he just went through the bunting and just was charging forward. No one was stopping him, and then we were like, no, we're not having this. You've got to do the limbo. You have to. Yeah. So me and my mate just absolutely launched him, and this guy just done one of those sort of head splats where you like fling back and smack straight onto the floor, and he got knocked out. And me and my friend just went, dropped the rope and scarpered. And I regret that ever since. I know the guy was okay the next day, but he did sleep the entire night in that same spot. And in the morning decided to descend out. But that's something where I put on a DVD. That was the question, wasn't it? On a DVD, being a complete arsehole. So.
Oh dear. And somewhere out there, he's on the podcast right now. They've asked him a question like, what's the worst thing that ever happened to you? He'd be like, oh man, let me tell you about this time at the festival. Right, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you to everybody in the live chat. Thanks very much to my guest, Mark, aka Van Man Talks, tonight, and also big thanks to the Patreons who continue to support the show and the alternative paper reviews and everything else that I'm putting out at the moment. Their names across the screen right now as I'm saying this. Look at them. Look, those gorgeous bastards. I'll be back probably tomorrow morning with another alternative paper review. I'll be back next Tuesday or Wednesday with a solo show. If it's your first time tuning in to my channel, to my stuff, I do an alternative paper review every morning, or at least most mornings, depending on how well my children are behaving. And then I do 2 podcasts each week, a solo one on a Tuesday or Wednesday, and then a guested one. Or sometimes it's just like a live show and it's me in the live chat on a Friday night at 7:30. So Friday night, 7:30 every week. Come and join me. And if you tune into Labour Social at like 9 o'clock, just think, look, I could jump onto AIDS thing just beforehand. 7:30 to 8:30 or 8:30-ish. Anyway. Right, once again, thank you so much to my guest tonight, Van Man Talks. Go and give him a subscribe, give him a follow right now. His name is in the title of this video. Make sure you subscribe to his channel. He's wicked. And until next time, keep it booge, keep it binfluencer, and we are out this motherfucker!